Hey, what is up, you guys? Hope you're all doing good. I wanted to make a video kind of going over some of my thoughts and key takeaways on this new camera that I picked up for testing. This is the Canon Powershot V1. So it did come out really recently. So this is the newest Powershot in a while. And I've been playing around, messing with it, shooting video, shooting some photos. And overall, it's a fantastic camera. And I just thought I would share some insight with you guys here on the internet. And yeah, overall, this thing is a great semi-compact point-and-shoot camera. The only thing really not to like about it is the price tag is $980 US plus tax. So it's $1,000 and that seems like a lot, and it is, but the value is here in this camera, and I'll tell you why. So aside from the high price that this comes with, there's a lot to really love about this new Canon Powershot. I personally love point and shoots. I call them a capless camera system, meaning you can just turn it on and off, and the lens guard covers and uncovers itself. So you could just put it in your bag, your pocket, or whatever. You don't need to worry about fumbling with any lens caps or anything like that. It's got a pretty good, pretty decent enough onboard microphone. So if you want, you can just take this one item and it'll handle pretty much everything for you. Pretty good onboard audio, excellent built-in lens, good image stabilization, decent enough battery. And what's interesting about this one is you can see the onboard microphone grill right there, but this other kind of grate or port is for the fan. You can see right here, and on the side, it's got a built-in fan, which you can choose between automatic modes on it. So, you can pretty much guarantee at this point that this guy is not going to overheat on you. Me personally, I actually love this. I love the fact that this little Powershot, even though like I said, for a point and shoot, it's kind of a chonky boy. I actually love that this has a built-in fan on it, just to make sure that you don't have to worry about it ever overheating on you, pretty much. One of the cameras that I use in my studio a lot is the Sony ZV-1, and I know firsthand that, that is pretty much the most compact point and shoot camera you can kind of find on the market, and it shoots excellent video quality, but it will 100% overheat on you in no time. So that is a frustrating issue to run into. And it's nice knowing that with this, you'll never have to worry about that. So the other really interesting thing about the design of this camera that I think, personally, is the sensor choice that they went with. Now, Canon and other people are referring to this as a 1.4 type sensor, which I'm not 100% on how to word it correctly for what it is, but I did brush up on it. Basically, inside this camera is a sensor that is very close to the same size of a micro four thirds sensor. If you're not familiar with micro four thirds, it's an even smaller sensor than APS-C size sensors, but it is still larger than a 1-inch sensor. Example, a 1-inch sensor is found in the Sony ZV-1 I mentioned. In my opinion, any modern sensor that is 1 inch or larger is able to offer more than adequate enough image quality, in my opinion. Anything 1 inch or above, I'm happy with. Now, this is kind of a new middle of the road, so to speak, that Canon chose, and I actually really like it. It makes a lot of sense. So they went with the micro four thirds size, but the reason that it's not called a micro four thirds sensor in here is because micro four thirds sensors are 4x3. They're slightly taller than our regular CMOS camera sensors. This is not. This is 3x2, just like a APS-C or full frame size CMOS sensor. So it's basically the same size as micro four thirds, but it is the same dimensions that 3x2 as, like, for example, your existing APS-C or full frame, just smaller. The image quality coming out of this Canon Powershot is more than adequate. I love it. It produces fantastic Canon colors. It has pretty dang good low light performance. And if you don't mind shooting in manual in a controlled environment like I do personally, I generally shoot with the ISO relatively low. So I've been getting extremely clean images while taking videos with this thing. And even when I dial it up to 1600, 3200, the noise is not that bad in photo or even for video. These modern sensors are so good now, it's just, they perform relatively excellent given the price. So yeah, I actually like the fact that they went with this kind of newer sensor offering. I definitely think that it has its place in the market, and I have been definitely enjoying it. So next up, some kind of key things around the body of it. It does have the Canon RF ring. It's dampened pretty dang well. It's smooth, it's pleasant. You know, nothing to complain about there. You really only have that as a dial, and then this guy in the back. So those are really the only two things you have to use your exposure triangle. And you do have your power zoom lever. The full frame equivalent focal length for this lens is about an 18 to 50. It starts off at f2.8, goes to f4, decently bright enough. And like I said, the image quality is great, so I'm not complaining. So you can just power it on and off by just hitting the button right there. And this thing is fast. It turns on so quick. Turns off and on so quick. Some cameras, they lag like nobody's business. This does not. Also, it makes an awesome kind of startup tone. I think it's really cool. Here, listen. Yeah, so you get to hear that every time you start it up. Also, here's something really cool that I kind of accidentally discovered is you can set the screen brightness to whatever you want. If you hold down info, it'll actually just automatically kick the brightness up. So that is awesome. So you could just hold it down, kick the brightness up, kick it back down, which is really awesome if you're shooting outside. Because, you know, sometimes you just only need to kind of bring up the brightness for a minute, and then, you know, you could drop it back down, save that battery. This is an excellent solution to that. So I really like this implementation. So you can also go in the menu, it's yellow on the 4th page, you can do startup image. And you can actually choose whether it says you want it totally off, that way it doesn't show anything, or if you want it on 1, which is the Canon image, or 2, where you could set it where it shows Powershot V1. That's pretty cool. So you can kind of just choose what you want with that. So let's turn it off, back on, Powershot V1. That's pretty cool. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it back to where it just says Canon on it. Yeah, I like that kind of stuff a lot. This guy can shoot up to 4K 60 with the crop or 4K 30 fine, so to speak. Very on par with what we're used to. And it is worth mentioning, the rubber grip on this thing it's just like if you were to find on, you know, pretty much all Canon cameras now. Canon has this wonderfully like great feeling, soft kind of grippy grip. Whatever material this is, I think they do it the best out of pretty much anybody. And this is no exception. So this feels freaking great. All around the grip. It's just extremely pleasant to be able to hold. And it's not slippery. So good job as always on Canon's part for that. Now real quick, I'm just going to open up the bottom battery door. You do have the standard LPE17 Canon battery that does come with it. That's all you get with it in the box. But you can charge it through Type-C. It's power delivery certified, which is fantastic. That is all I ask for these days. If it has Type-C and it's power delivery, that's okay with me. It does support UHS-2 SD card speeds, and it's right here. I think the best implementation on SD card spots is a side loading spot, like what I have on the A6700 that I'm shooting on right now. It just kind of loads from the side. I think that's the best, but this is fine too. You know, I'm not really going to complain about that. I mean, they did fit this fan in here in the spot where that theoretically would be. So, you know, it's right next to the battery. It is what it is. This thing is pretty compact, even though it's thick for a point and shoot. It's still pretty dang compact, and it's tough. It feels well built. So another thing that I should mention is the 1/4-20 mount is not in a good spot. It's right next to the door, so if you have this mounted on a tripod, if you're done shooting, you're not going to be able to access or take out the battery in the SD card until after you unmount it from the 1/4-20. And that's an easy oversight. That one I am going to deduct points over. That one's just an easy sidestep. They did the same thing on the Sony ZV-1 on the 1st generation, and they fixed it on the 2nd generation. They moved it over. Everybody should be doing that. I don't think it should be blocking that. It's too important. Also, I have to say the buttons are very pleasing and tactile. I feel like they're constructed well. The dial pad does rotate here, which I think is great. You should never miss out on that functionality of having up, down, left, and right, and being able to swivel it. That's good. I always look out for that. And the buttons like menu, they're very tactile. You do have one manual function button, and you have the rocker switch from video to photo. And of course, as usual, Canon's Q menu is fantastic and easy to walk through and navigate, just like pretty much every other Canon is. Just hit the middle button for Q, and you can select all of your focus areas, and they are flex, so you can shift the dimensions of them. And it does have auto subject detect mode, which is great. That's in pretty much the Canon R8 and newer, I want to say. You have not just the subject detection modes, but you have it on auto to where it will decide if it's a person, animal, car, whatever. The image stabilization mode is excellent in my opinion on this. I think Canon does a great job with image stabilization. Their lens stabilization in this camera is very good. I also have the Movie Digital IS set to the first step, which is a slight crop. I think you get the best results in this combination, so I leave it on here most of the time. It is just kind of weird though, because if you leave it on Movie Digital IS, and this kind of tripped me up, it was really weird. If you leave it on Movie Digital IS on 1 or 2, if you go to Rec Movie Size, you will not see any options or codec for 4K 60. You have to turn off Movie Digital IS, go back to your setup, and now, and only now, when the digital IS is off, will it show you 4K 60. So now here's where you can access 4K 60 at a crop and the standard IPB and IPB Lite. Very weird in my opinion. It just, well, I don't think it should be that way. I think they should be just kind of blanked out. If you have the digital IS on, I don't think it should completely just cut it out like they don't exist. That's just confusing to the user. As far as the picture style, I do mess around with pretty much all the modes, so I don't really kind of stick to one in particular. Oh, another interesting thing that I thought was on this camera is I think all these cameras now should have a product focus mode or product showcase mode, because it's just easy gravy points. There's no reason to not include it. It's just a focus behavior. Every camera coming out now should have it. This one does have it, but the implementation of it is not that great in my opinion. So what you actually have to do is you have to turn your dial to scene mode, and you select the scene, and there's a few scenes you can choose from. Example, smooth skin movie for close-up demos, and movie IS mode. So movie for close-up demos is what you would want, and that programs the focusing behavior to where if you hold something in front of it, it'll just instantly rack focus to that and then back to your face, for example. I don't mind it being in a separate mode, but you cannot choose the color profile mode at this point. It's just in standard color profile mode, or it might be auto. I'm not sure. It doesn't show you, it doesn't give you the, chance to pick it. It's weird. Yeah, so you guys can see right there, I'm in the product shooting mode, and there's no options for anything color-wise. So that's interesting. I feel like it's kind of a miss. The few Sony cameras that do have product showcase, they do it well, but they don't throw it in all the cameras, which is just as bad as doing it wrong, in my opinion. And Nikon recently, on the Z52, not only does it have it, it does an excellent job of implementing it. You can do the flex focus points to where you can make it thinner or narrower. So good job to Nikon for not only choosing to implement that focus behavior, but they actually took it a step farther and made it more flexible. The Nikon Z50 Mark II is a great camera as well, by the way. I've been using and testing that for a while. That one I bought to keep. If you have any questions about that one as well, let me know down in the comments. So let's just go back to manual mode. And before I end this video, there's one more thing I wanted to talk about. So it's technically a new feature, but it was kind of not the easiest thing to pick up on. So if you head down in the Q menu to the digital IS, if you turn off digital IS and you hit subject track IS, it's a new subject tracking mode. So you can leave it off or turn it on, and you can choose for the subject position, either screen center or select position. So it's pertinent to where you started, like up, upper left, upper right. It's positional. So leave it on screen center. And while this is on, it blurs out the rest of the IS modes when this is on. And basically, to get it started, you tap your subject on the screen. So whether you're filming yourself, just tap your face and it will engage it. Or if you're doing like an animal or whatever, just tap your subject. In a word, it will adjust the image stabilization to the focus point. So it'll kind of shift and move over for what it thinks is going to be the best kind of video-centric coverage for the subject that it's tracking. In my opinion, it kind of works okay, but me personally, I've been kind of messing with it. For right now, I just have it turned off, and I just leave it back on my first step, slight image digital stabilization compounded with the lens stabilization. I still like that. the most. So yeah, those are some of my main thoughts and things that I wanted to talk about regarding the Powershot V1. It's a very interesting, quirky little camera, but it's undoubtedly capable of producing fantastic footage. So there's a lot to love with this thing. If you guys are going to pick one of these up, there is affiliate links down below, and it's at no additional cost to you. Other than that, if you have more questions regarding the Powershot V1, drop them down in the comments. Thanks for tagging along, and I will see you in the next video.